"Get out," my sister hissed, her diamond ring catching the light as blood trickled down my cheek. "You're embarrassing me in front of everyone." I stood frozen, my hand pressed against my stinging face, as every eye in the bridal salon turned to stare. The $8,000 wedding dress my sister was trying on? I had paid for it. The $24,000 venue deposit? My credit card. The photographer, the caterer, the hand-calligraphed invitations, all funded by me. But as I walked out of that salon, something inside me finally snapped. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and hovered my finger over one button. Cancel card. 3 taps later, I watched through the window as my sister's perfect world crumbled in real time. The consultant's face as the payment declined. My sister's shock. The manager asking for the dress back. It was the most satisfying moment of my life. Upbeat intro music. Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another episode of Pure Revenge Stories. I'm so grateful you've chosen to spend your time with me today. To my loyal subscribers, thank you from the bottom of my heart. Your support means everything. Before we dive into today's story, I just want to say a quick prayer for you all. May your path today be filled with unexpected blessings. May you have the courage to set boundaries with those who drain you, the wisdom to recognize your own worth, and the strength to walk away from relationships that no longer serve you. Amen. Now, let's get into this wild story about a woman who finally stopped funding someone else's fairy tale and started living her own. My name is Avery. I'm 29 and an architectural project manager. Growing up, I was always the responsible one, the reliable one, the one who did everything right, and somehow, that was never enough. My sister Jordan, 2 years older, was our parents' golden child. The prettier one, the more charismatic one, the one with potential. While I worked nights at the campus library to pay my tuition, Jordan partied through college on our parents' dime. When she came home with CS and DS, Mom would say, "At least you're having fun, sweetie." Meanwhile, my straight as barely warranted a nod. "Not everyone can be as boring as you, Avery," Jordan would tease at family dinners, making everyone laugh while I smiled tightly, playing along as always. After college, when I landed my first architecture job, my starting salary was modest, but I managed it carefully. I had a plan: work hard, save aggressively, buy my own place by 30. I clipped coupons, packed lunches, said no to vacations. Every extra dollar went into my savings account. Meanwhile, Jordan bounced between careers. First marketing. It's just not creative enough for me. Then event planning. The clients are too demanding. Finally settling on luxury real estate. The commission potential is insane. Jordan just needs a little help getting established, Mom would explain when they wrote another check to fund one of her ventures. She's a big picture person. Each of her businesses failed, one after another. But somehow, I was always the one who ended up feeling like the failure. At family gatherings, relatives would fawn over Jordan's stories of showing multi-million-dollar properties to celebrities, while I'd get the obligatory, "How's work, Avery?" Fine, I'd say, not bothering to mention the promotion I'd just received or the major project I was leading. No one would care anyway. Then came Blake Harrington. Jordan met him at a charity gala she'd talked her way into. Old money, family connections, a job at a prestigious financial firm. When she flashed the 3-carat diamond engagement ring at Sunday dinner, you'd have thought she'd single-handedly cured cancer. Can you believe it? Mom squealed, grabbing Jordan's hand to examine the ring for the 5th time. My daughter, marrying into the Harrington family. Dad beamed with pride. Blake's father plays golf with the governor, you know. I smiled and offered appropriate congratulations while doing mental calculations of how many years of my salary that ring represented. "We're thinking a June wedding," Jordan announced. "Small and intimate. Maybe just 300 people." I choked on my water. 300 is intimate? "Well, the Harringtons have a large social circle," Mom said dismissively. "And of course, we want to do it right." That's when the first red flag appeared. "Blake's trust fund is tied up until he's 35, Jordan explained, picking at her salad. And there's some temporary issue with his year-end bonus. So we might need a little help with the initial deposits. Dad's smile faltered. Well, Princess, your mother and I are still recovering from helping you with the real estate licensing and that office space last year. Jordan's face fell dramatically. But Daddy, this is my wedding. The Harringtons will be there. We can't look, you know. She left the implication hanging. That's when all eyes turned to me. Avery, Mom began in that tone I knew all too well. You've always been so good with money. And it's not like you're saving for anything important right now. Actually, I said, thinking of the down payment I was close to completing. I'm looking at condos downtown. Jordan rolled her eyes. You can get a condo anytime. I'm getting married to Blake Harrington. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our family. Just the engagement party, Dad urged. A small loan. Once Blake's bonus comes through, you'll get it all back with interest. I should have said no. I knew I should have said no. But 30 years of conditioning doesn't break in an instant. How much? I asked. Jordan named a figure that made me wince, but wasn't impossible. I agreed, telling myself it was just this once. That was the beginning. The engagement party turned into the venue deposit. The venue deposit turned into the photographer's retainer. The photographer turned into the florist, the caterer, the wedding planner. Each time, there was a reason. Blake's bonus was delayed. There was a mix-up with his expense account. His parents were covering the honeymoon, so they couldn't help with this part. For months and $24,000 later, I was sitting in my apartment looking at real estate listings for places I could no longer afford when Jordan called. I need you at Elysium Bridal tomorrow at 2, she said without preamble. The final fitting for my dress. I have a client meeting. Reschedule it, she cut me off. This is important, Avery. I need honest feedback, not just what the bridesmaids will say. I started to argue, but she'd already hung up. That night, I stared at my bank account, the numbers blurring before my eyes. My savings, the result of years of careful planning and sacrifice, had been decimated. The temporary loan had turned into an endless drain, with no sign of Blake's mythical bonus appearing to save the day. It'll be fine, I told myself, the lie sounding hollow even to my own ears. After the wedding, they'll pay me back. It's just a few more weeks. Elysium Bridal was exactly as pretentious as the name suggested. Crystal chandeliers hung from coffered ceilings. Champagne flowed freely, even though it was barely past noon. Women I vaguely recognized as Jordan's friends lounged on velvet settees, scrolling through their phones with expressions of practiced boredom. Avery, Jordan called from her perch on a circular platform, surrounded by 3 attendants adjusting the voluminous skirt of her dress. Finally, tell me what you think. Is the train too much? Mom thinks it might be too much for the venue. Our mother hovered nearby, glass of champagne in hand, nodding anxiously. The dress was a masterpiece of excess. Layers of silk and tulle, hand-embroidered with crystals that caught the light with every breath Jordan took. The bodice was fitted to perfection, the sweetheart neckline showcasing her collarbones. The train extended at least 6 feet behind her, a cascade of ivory fabric that would require its own attendant just to manage down the aisle. It's something, I said, setting my purse down and accepting a flute of champagne I didn't want. Something. Jordan's perfectly shaped eyebrows drew together. What does that mean? It's beautiful, I amended, taking a sip to avoid saying more. The salon director approached, tablet in hand. Miss Reynolds, we'll need to process the final payment today to release the gown. With the rush alterations and the custom value selected, the balance comes to $8,250. My stomach dropped. The original quote had been $6,000, which was already obscene. Jordan waved her hand dismissively. Just put it on the card we have on file. Avery, can you help me with the veil? I want to see the full effect. The salon director disappeared with a nod, and one of the attendants handed me a length of delicate lace adorned with tiny pearl beads. I stepped onto the platform behind Jordan, careful not to step on the dress. Make sure you don't mess up my hair, Jordan instructed as I lifted the veil. The crystal pins are already set for the ceremony. As I adjusted the veil over her carefully styled blonde waves, I caught my own reflection in the three-way mirror. My simple navy dress, purchased on sale 3 years ago. My sensible pumps, resold twice. The dark circles under my eyes from staying up late working on a project to earn extra money that was going straight into the black hole of Jordan's wedding. Something shifted inside me. A quiet voice that had been whispering for years suddenly rose to a shout. Enough. Jordan, I said quietly, still holding the veil. We need to talk about the money. Her eyes met mine in the mirror, narrowing slightly. What about it? I can't keep doing this. The dress, the venue, all of it, I've spent almost $25,000 on your wedding. When is Blake's bonus actually coming through? The salon suddenly seemed quieter, though the background music still played. I felt rather than saw our mother tense up nearby. Now is not the time, Avery, Jordan hissed, her smile frozen for the benefit of the attendants. We'll talk about it later. No, we need to talk about it now. Before I put another $8,000 on my credit card. Jordan turned, the movement causing me to drop one corner of the veil. I said, not now, she whispered furiously. You're embarrassing me. I'm embarrassing you? My voice rose slightly. I've drained my savings for your wedding. I've put my entire life on hold. And you can't even have a conversation about paying me back. Oh my God, it's always about money with you, Jordan said, loud enough now that her friends looked up from their phones. It's my wedding day. No, it's your wedding fitting, I corrected. And it's not about money. It's about respect. You promised this was temporary. You promised Blake would pay me back. And he will. Jordan snapped. Why are you being such a bitch about this? Do you not want me to be happy? Our mother appeared at the edge of the platform. Girls, please. This isn't the place. Tell her that, Jordan said, pointing at me. She's the one making a scene over a few dollars. $25,000 is not a few dollars, I said, my voice steady despite the anger building inside me. That was my down payment. My future. Oh, please, Jordan rolled her eyes dramatically. Your boring little condo downtown? As if that matters compared to my marriage to Blake. This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for our family, remember? Or are you just jealous because no one wants to marry you? The salon fell completely silent. Even the background music seemed to fade. Our mother's face went white. Jordan, she gasped. Apologize to your sister. But something in me had finally broken. Years of diminishment, of sacrifice, of being the responsible one while watching Jordan take, it all crystallized into a moment of perfect clarity. You know what? Keep the dress. Keep the venue. Keep all of it, I said, stepping down from the platform. But you're going to have to find another way to pay for it. I turned to leave, grabbing my purse from the chair. Don't you dare walk out. Jordan shrieked behind me. We're not finished. I kept walking. 3 steps, 4 steps, almost to the door. The sting across my cheek came out of nowhere. Jordan's hand, her massive diamond engagement ring leading the way, made contact with enough force to knock me sideways. I felt a sharp pain, then wetness. When I touched my fingers to my cheek, they came away with a smear of blood. Get out, she hissed, her voice low but clear enough for everyone to hear. You're making me look bad in front of everyone. The salon's chandeliers suddenly seemed too bright. Every eye on me as I stood among dresses that cost more than my semester's rent, my hand pressed against my bleeding cheek. Women I barely knew, Jordan's college friends, our extended family, glanced away awkwardly, pretending to study lace patterns and beadwork. Only our mother stared directly at me, her expression not of concern but warning, don't make a scene. But beneath the humiliation burning through my chest was something colder, more focused. Because what my sister didn't know, what none of them knew, was that the black American Express card in Jordan's designer purse was mine. The $24,000 deposit on her fairy tale venue, the photographer's retainer, the catering advance, the hand-calligraphed invitations, all paid from my account. I straightened my shoulders, touched the corner of my eye where tears threatened, and walked toward the exit without a word. As the salon door closed behind me, I already had my phone in hand. Banking app open, finger hovering over cancel card. My finger trembled for just a moment. This was the point of no return. Once I did this, there would be no going back to the way things were with my family. No more pretending we were normal. No more playing the role of the reliable one who could be counted on to fix everything. I tapped cancel card. A confirmation screen appeared. Are you sure you want to cancel this card? Any pending authorizations will be declined. I tapped confirm. 3 taps and my sister's entire wedding budget vanished. The screen confirmed, card canceled successfully. The street outside the salon buzzed with Saturday shoppers, none aware of the drama that had just unfolded. I found a quiet spot beside a coffee shop and pressed a tissue to my cheek, the small cut finally stopping its bleeding. The salon's front windows gave me a perfect view inside. Jordan still stood on the pedestal, admiring the hand-beaded gown that cost more than my first car. Our mother hovered nearby, both oblivious to what I'd just done. The consultant approached with a tablet, ready to process the purchase. I waited, heart pounding against my ribs. Jordan handed over my card with the casual entitlement of someone who'd never worried about money, specifically, someone who'd never worried about my money. I watched the consultant swipe once, then again, her professional smile faltering. She whispered something to Jordan, whose face transformed from confusion to disbelief. What do you mean declined? Her voice carried even through the glass. That's impossible. Try it again. The consultant shook her head, pointing at her tablet screen. Jordan turned to our mother, her perfect makeup unable to hide her panic. The salon manager appeared, his expression shifting from deferential to impatient as he extended his hand for the gown Jordan still clutched. I should have felt guilty. Instead, watching my sister's shocked face as her fantasy crumbled felt like oxygen after years underwater. I took a screenshot of the cancellation confirmation and walked away. My phone vibrated before I'd gone 2 blocks. Mother, then Jordan, then mother again. I declined them all, silencing the continuous buzzing as I headed to the subway station. Excuse me? A deep voice called from behind me. Miss? You dropped this. I turned to see a man holding my scarf, which had slipped from my purse in my hurry to escape. He was tall, with warm hazel eyes and a concerned expression that deepened when he saw my face. You're bleeding, he said, handing me the scarf. Are you okay? I'm fine, I said automatically, pressing my fingers to my cheek. It's nothing. He didn't look convinced. There's a coffee shop right there. At least let me get you some ice for that cut. Under normal circumstances, I would have politely declined and hurried away. But something about this day had already broken all my normal patterns. Actually, I said, surprising myself, that would be nice. Thank you. I'm Nate, he said, with a smile that reached all the way to those hazel eyes. Avery, I replied, feeling the first genuine smile of the day form on my lips. My name is Avery. The coffee shop was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the cold sterility of the bridal salon. Nate guided me to a corner table, disappeared briefly, and returned with an ice pack wrapped in a clean dish towel and 2 steaming mugs. I got you a chai latte, he said, setting 1 mug in front of me. It seemed like a better choice than coffee after. Whatever just happened to you. I pressed the makeshift ice pack to my cheek, the cold numbing the sting. How did you know I'd prefer chai? He shrugged, a small smile playing at the corners of his mouth. You don't strike me as the black coffee type. Too much edge. That startled a laugh out of me. And what type do I strike you as? He studied me over the rim of his mug. Someone who pretends to have it all together while secretly preferring things a little sweet and spicy. The accuracy of his assessment was unsettling. Are you psychic or something? Observant, he corrected. Occupational hazard. What occupation involves reading strangers in coffee shops? I'm a graphic novelist, he said. I watch people, try to understand what makes them tick. By day, I make espresso drinks downstairs from my apartment to pay the bills. Speaking of which, he nodded toward my cheek. Want to tell me why someone decided to use your face as a punching bag? Should I be looking for a jealous boyfriend around the corner? The absurdity of the question made me laugh again. God, no. Nothing like that. It was my sister, actually. His eyebrows shot up. Family drama? On a Saturday afternoon? Must have been some argument. I hesitated, unsure why I felt compelled to tell this stranger about the most humiliating moment of my life. But something about his direct gaze made me want to be equally direct. My sister slapped me because I refused to keep paying for her wedding, I said bluntly. I've spent nearly $25,000 funding her fairy tale, and when I finally stood up for myself, she left me bleeding in front of her entire bridal party. I expected shock or awkward sympathy. Instead, Nate nodded thoughtfully. And what did you do after that? A small, fierce smile spread across my face. I canceled my credit card. The one she's been using for all the wedding expenses. Right now, she's discovering that her $8,000 dress is staying firmly on the rack. Nate whistled low. That's bold. My smile faltered. It's terrible, isn't it? I should feel guilty. Do you? I considered the question, searching for the remorse that should have been there. No, I admit it. I feel relieved. Like I can finally breathe again. Nate leaned back in his chair, regarding me with new interest. Avery the Bold. I like it. More like Avery the doormat who finally stood up. Hey! His voice grew serious. Standing up for yourself doesn't make you terrible. It makes you human. Some people only learn boundaries when they slam into them face first. I sipped my chai, which was indeed exactly what I needed. How are you so wise, Coffee Shop Nate? Lived experience, he said with a self-deprecating smile. I spent too many years letting my ex drain my creative energy, my finances, my self-worth. Took losing almost everything to learn that lesson. Something about his honesty, offered without expectation, made my shoulders relax for the first time in hours. We talked as our drinks cooled, discovering surprising connections. He'd grown up just 30 minutes from my hometown. We'd both spent summers at the same lake, years apart. He loved architecture, the very field I worked in. I dabbled in illustration, the foundation of his graphic novels. When my phone buzzed for the 20th time, I finally silenced it completely. That's probably the fallout beginning, I explained. Need to deal with it? I shook my head. Not today. Today, I'm having chai with a stranger who was kind enough to notice I was bleeding. His smile lit up his entire face. Well, when you put it that way, how could I possibly compete with a family meltdown? As afternoons stretched into evening, our conversation deepened. Nate told me about his graphic novel series, a noir-style mystery with supernatural elements. I described my latest architectural project, renovating a historic theater downtown. When the cafe began closing, we reluctantly stood to leave. This is going to sound strange, Nate said as we paused outside, the evening air cool against my skin, but I live right upstairs. Would you like to come up for dinner? I make a mean pasta carbonara. The old Avery would have politely declined, made an excuse about early meetings or prior commitments. The old Avery was predictable, reliable, safe. But the woman who had canceled her sister's wedding with 3 taps of her finger was someone new entirely. I'd like that, I said, surprising myself for the second time that day. His apartment was exactly what I'd expect from a graphic novelist, organized chaos. Bookshelves overflowed with graphic novels and art books. A drafting table stood by the window, covered with sketches and ink pens. But the kitchen was spotless, with professional-grade cookware hanging from a ceiling rack. Cooking is my other creative outlet, he explained, tying on an apron with practiced ease. Less pressure than drawing. If a panel doesn't work, I've wasted hours. If pasta doesn't work, I just order pizza. I wandered around his living room while he cooked, examining the artwork on his walls, original comic panels, vintage movie posters, a stunning black and white photograph of the city skyline at dawn. This is beautiful, I said, pointing to the photo. Did you take it? Yeah, from the roof. Building management doesn't exactly allow access, but the super likes my coffee, so he pretends not to notice. Rebellious and talented, I mused. Dangerous combination. He glanced up from the stove, a smile playing at his lips. You have no idea. Dinner was simple but perfect. Creamy carbonara, crusty bread, a bottle of red wine that loosened my tongue, and the knot of tension in my chest. As we ate, I found myself telling him everything. The years of playing second fiddle to Jordan. The financial drain. The dreams I'd put on hold. So what happens now? He asked as we washed dishes side by side, our shoulders occasionally brushing in his small kitchen. After today, I handed him a plate to dry. Honestly, I have no idea. I've never done anything like this before. Like what? Standing up for yourself or having dinner with strange men who pick you up on the street? I laughed, flicking soap suds at him. Both, I guess. He caught my hand, his expression growing serious. For what it's worth, I think you did the right thing. Some people only learn when there are consequences. I've never stood up for myself like that before. How does it feel? His question was gentle, curious. Terrifying, I admitted. And exhilarating. His eyes held mine, and suddenly I was acutely aware of how close we were standing, my hand still in his. Something electric passed between us, a current of possibility. I should go, I said softly, though it was the last thing I wanted. Or you could stay, he countered, equally soft. Just talk, No pressure. The old Avery would have made her excuses and fled. But I was discovering I wasn't that woman anymore. I'd like to stay, I said. Just talk. We moved to his couch, a comfortable, worn leather affair that had clearly seen better days. The wine bottle came with us, and as the night deepened, so did our conversation. He told me about growing up with parents who never quite understood his artistic ambitions. I shared stories of architectural disasters that had become learning experiences. We discovered a mutual love for old noir films and a shared hatred of cilantro. It tastes like soap, we exclaimed in unison, dissolving into laughter. When I finally checked my phone, it was after midnight. 42 missed calls and 27 text messages glared accusingly from the screen. Wow, Nate said, peering over my shoulder. That's a proper meltdown in progress. I should probably deal with this tomorrow, I sighed. Stay, he said suddenly. Not like, I have a spare room. It's my studio, but there's a daybed. It's late, and after everything today. The thought of going back to my empty apartment, alone with the inevitable confrontation looming, was unbearable. Are you sure? Absolutely. Mikasa, Sukasa, and all that. The spare room was small but cozy, walls covered with sketches and reference photos. The daybed was surprisingly comfortable, made up with clean sheets that smelled of lavender detergent. Bathrooms across the hall, Nate said, handing me a t-shirt and boxers. These should work as pajamas. There's a new toothbrush in the medicine cabinet. Thank you, I said, meaning it for more than just the sleeping arrangements. For everything today. He smiled, the expression transforming his face. My pleasure, Avery the Bold. Sleep well. But sleep proved elusive. I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying the day's events. The slap. The blood. The 3 taps that had changed everything. The strange, immediate connection with this man I'd just met. Eventually, I gave up and padded to the kitchen for water. Nate was there, sketching at the counter, a small lamp casting shadows across his concentrated face. He glanced up surprised. Can't sleep, he asked. I shook my head. Too much adrenaline, I think. I get that. After big life moments, my brain refuses to shut down. He pushed a glass of water toward me. Want to see what I'm working on? Sometimes boring other people with my art puts me right to sleep. I moved closer, looking over his shoulder at the sketch. It was a woman, standing outside a storefront, her face a mixture of defiance and uncertainty, one hand on her phone, the other touching her cheek. With a jolt, I realized it was me, outside the bridal salon. You're drawing me? He looked embarrassed. Sorry. Artist brain. Today had all the elements of a perfect opening scene, drama, conflict, a character at a turning point. I should have been unnerved. Instead, I felt oddly flattered. What happens next? In your story. He considered me thoughtfully. That depends on the character. Does she go back to her old life, or does she use this moment to change everything? Our eyes met, and suddenly the small kitchen felt charged with possibility. I was acutely aware of his proximity, the soft cotton of his t-shirt against my skin, the way his gaze dropped briefly to my lips. I think I said slowly, she changes everything. I'm not sure who moved first. One moment we were standing apart, the next his mouth was on mine, tentative at first, then with growing certainty as I responded. His hand cupped my face gently, thumb brushing over my cheekbone, careful of the small cut that had started this entire unlikely day. Is this okay? He murmured against my lips. In answer, I pressed closer, my arms winding around his neck. The kiss deepened, months of pent-up loneliness and years of putting myself last dissolving in the heat between us. His hands were respectful but insistent, tracing the curve of my waist, the line of my spine. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. I don't usually do this, I whispered, forehead pressed against his. What, kiss graphic novelists in their kitchens at 2 a.m.? I laughed softly. Kiss anyone lately. I've been too busy funding someone else's love story to write my own. His expression softened. We can stop. No pressure. But I didn't want to stop. For the first time in years, maybe ever, I was doing exactly what I wanted, with no concern for anyone else's expectations or needs. I don't want to stop, I said, finding courage in his steady gaze. But maybe we could move somewhere more comfortable than your kitchen counter? His smile was slow and beautiful. I think that can be arranged. Morning light filtered through unfamiliar curtains, waking me gently. For a moment, I couldn't place where I was. The room wasn't my apartment. The warm body next to me definitely wasn't my extra pillow. Then the events of yesterday crashed back. The salon, the slap, the 3 fateful taps on my phone, and Nate. Especially Nate. He slept peacefully beside me, one arm flung above his head, the other still loosely draped across my waist. Last night had been unexpected. Not just the physical connection, though that had been remarkable in its own right. It was the feeling of being truly seen by someone, perhaps for the first time. I carefully disentangled myself and padded to the bathroom. The woman in the mirror looked different somehow. Same brown hair, same gray eyes, but something had shifted in her expression. The perpetual furrow between my brows had smoothed, replaced by a certain calmness I didn't recognize. My phone, which I'd plugged in but kept on silent, showed 37 missed calls and 24 texts. I took a deep breath and began reading them, each message more desperate than the last. 10:15 a.m. Mom, the salon called. What did you do to the card? 10:22 a.m. Jordan, fix this now. 10:47 a.m. Mom, Jordan is devastated. How could you embarrass us like this? 11:30 a.m. Jordan, the venue is threatening to cancel. This isn't funny anymore. 12:10 p.m. Mom, your father is furious. Call us immediately. 10:05 p.m. Jordan, Blake's parents are asking questions. You're ruining my life. The final text had arrived at 3:42 a.m. If you don't fix this by tomorrow, don't bother coming to the wedding. I laughed out loud at that one. Without my money, there wouldn't be a wedding. Something funny? Nate appeared in the doorway, hair adorably mussed, wearing only pajama bottoms. The sight of his bare chest, which I'd explored thoroughly the night before, sent a pleasant warmth through my body. Just the spectacular meltdown happening on my phone, I explained, showing him the last message. He read it and snorted. Bold of her to assume there will be a wedding for you to attend. Exactly. I set the phone down. I should probably deal with this today. After breakfast, he insisted, pulling me into a kiss that quickly threatened to derail any plans for the day. I make pancakes almost as well as I make other things. I blushed, remembering exactly how skilled he was at other things. Pancakes sound perfect. We were midway through breakfast when my phone rang with an unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Is this Avery Reynolds? A man's voice, professional but strained. Yes. Who's calling? This is Warren from Westlake Manor. We're trying to reach Jordan Reynolds regarding her outstanding balance of $32,450 due today. Her number goes straight to voicemail, and she listed you as an alternate contact. I closed my eyes, picturing the magnificent estate Jordan had selected. Stone archways, manicured gardens, capacity for 300 guests she'd insisted were absolutely necessary. I'm sorry, Warren. I'm no longer involved with my sister's wedding finances. I see. His tone shifted slightly. Well, if you speak with her, please let her know that without today's scheduled payment, we'll be forced to release the date to another client. We have 3 couples on our waiting list. I'll pass that along. After hanging up, I stared at my half-eaten pancakes, reality intruding on what had been a perfect morning. Venue. Nate guest, refilling my coffee. Yep. Apparently there's a $32,000 payment due today. I shook my head in disbelief. That's more than I make in 6 months. And they called you instead of her? I'm listed as an alternate contact. Probably because I was the one making all the payments up until now. Nate whistled low. The fallout is officially beginning. I picked up my phone again, this time to block my parents' and Jordan's numbers. As I did, a new text came through from a number I recognized. Blake, Jordan's fiancé. Avery, it's Blake. Things are crazy here. Jordan says you canceled some card and now everything's falling apart. I don't understand what's going on. My parents are asking questions I can't answer. Can you call me? His confusion sounded genuine. I typed out a text rather than calling. Blake, Jordan told everyone your family was covering wedding costs. In reality, I've been paying for everything on my credit cards. She slapped me in public yesterday, so I canceled the cards. I'm done being her secret bank account. He responded almost immediately. Wait, what? She told us your parents were paying. I showed Nate the exchange. The plot thickens, he said, eyebrows raised. So no one knew you were bankrolling this thing? Apparently not. The realization was both vindicating and infuriating. She's been lying to everyone. What happens now? I turned off my phone completely, suddenly needing space from the drama. Now, I finish these excellent pancakes. Then I go home and figure out how to rebuild my savings and my life. Something flickered across Nate's face, disappointment, maybe? Right. Of course. But I added, surprising myself again, I'd like to see you again. If you want. His smile returned, brighter than before. I was hoping you'd say that. Dinner tonight? There's a great Thai place on Maple. I'd like that. Back at my apartment, the silence felt different. Not lonely, as it sometimes had, but peaceful. I spent the day cleaning, organizing, taking stock of my finances. The damage was severe, but not irreparable. If I was careful, worked some overtime, and postponed the down payment another year, I could recover. As I got ready for dinner with Nate, I examined my reflection critically. The cut on my cheek was small but visible, a reminder of yesterday's turning point. Rather than try to hide it with makeup, I left it exposed, a badge of honor rather than a mark of shame. I chose a dress I'd bought months ago but never worn, teal blue, slightly daring, definitely not the kind of practical outfit the old Avery would have selected. The woman in the mirror looked back at me with clear eyes and a slight, confident smile. Nice to meet you, I whispered to her. Let's see where we go from here. The Thai restaurant was bustling with Saturday night energy, but Nate had somehow secured a quiet corner table. He stood when he saw me, his appreciative gaze making my skin warm. You look amazing, he said, pulling out my chair. That color suits you. Thanks. I've had this dress forever, but never had the courage to wear it. Well, Avery the Bold suits you too. He ordered a bottle of wine for us, then leaned forward conspiratorially. So, any new developments in Weddingmageddon? I laughed at his term for the situation. I've kept my phone off most of the day. Mental health break. Smart. Though I bet your inbox is reaching critical mass. Probably. But for once, it's not my emergency to fix. I lifted my wine glass. To letting people solve their own problems. He clinked his glass against mine. I'll drink to that. Dinner was even better than I'd expected. The food was spectacular, spicy curries, fragrant rice, flavors that danced on my tongue. But it was the conversation that made the evening magical. Nate wasn't what I expected. Behind the easy smile and casual charm was a mind that challenged mine. Over our shared mango sticky rice dessert, he told me about his journey to becoming a graphic novelist. I was in finance, if you can believe it, he said, gesturing with his spoon. Suit and tie 60-hour weeks, the whole corporate nightmare. What changed? My father died. His expression grew serious. Heart attack at 52. Dropped dead at his desk after 30 years at the same company. Never took a vacation, never pursued his dreams of traveling. He kept saying someday until someday ran out. He pushed the rice around his plate. At the funeral, his boss gave this speech about what a dedicated employee he'd been, and I realized that was the best thing anyone could say about him. Not that he'd lived fully or followed his passions. So you quit. The next day, cashed out my 401k, paid the penalty, and spent a year traveling. When I came back, I started drawing again, something I'd loved as a kid but abandoned for practical career choices. That's brave, I said, genuinely impressed. Most people never make that leap. It wasn't bravery so much as fear, he admitted. Fear of ending up like him. He reached across the table, taking my hand. What about you? What would you do if you weren't paying for someone else's happiness? The question caught me off guard. I don't know. I've spent so long being responsible, I'm not sure I remember how to dream for myself. Try, he encouraged. If money and expectations weren't factors, what would Avery want? I closed my eyes, letting myself imagine possibilities that had long been buried. I'd apply for the West Arc Fellowship. It's this prestigious international program for architects, a year traveling to study historic restoration techniques across Europe. I opened my eyes, embarrassed by how whimsical it sounded. Silly dream, right? Not at all, Nate said, squeezing my hand. Why haven't you applied? The application fee is steep, and you need a portfolio of original design concepts focused on restoration. I haven't had time to put that together between work and... I gestured vaguely, encompassing the entire wedding fiasco. Between work and being everyone's ATM, he finished for me. Exactly. His gaze was thoughtful, assessing. So, what's stopping you now? The question hung between us, full of possibility. What was stopping me? For the first time in years, I had no good answer. After dinner, we walked the long way back to our building, the late summer air warm against our skin. When we reached my door, he made no move to invite himself in, just smiled and said he'd had a great time. I surprised myself by reaching for his hand. Do you want to come in? For coffee or something? His fingers tightened around mine. Are you sure? You're going through a lot right now. The concern in his eyes made something inside me soften and heat simultaneously. I'm sure. The first kiss was tentative, a question asked and answered as my apartment door closed behind us. The second was bolder, his hands finding my waist, pulling me closer. I've wanted to do that since you first ordered that ridiculous double-shot vanilla oat milk latte with cinnamon, he murmured against my lips. That's oddly specific. You're oddly specific. His smile crinkled the corners of his eyes. It's kind of irresistible. What followed wasn't the desperate collision of bodies I'd imagined in my rare moments of fantasy. Instead, Nate took his time, his fingers tracing the curve of my cheek, the line of my neck, as if memorizing me. Each touch deliberate, each kiss deeper than the last. When my dress joined his shirt on the floor, his gaze held mine, seeking permission before his lips found the sensitive skin below my collarbone. I trembled under his attention and used to being the center of someone's world. You're beautiful, Avery, he whispered, the words brushing against my skin like a caress. Let me show you how beautiful. In my bedroom, illuminated only by the city lights filtering through the blinds, we moved together with increasing urgency. His hands explored and awakened parts of me I'd neglected in my years of self-sacrifice. When he finally entered me, My name on his lips like a prayer, I felt myself breaking and reforming into someone stronger, someone who could want and take and give without diminishing herself. Afterward, lying in the tangle of sheets with my head on his chest, listening to his heartbeat slow, I felt no regret. Only a curious sense of rightness, as if standing up for myself had opened a door to possibilities I'd never allowed myself to consider. "Stay," I said, surprising myself again. His arms tightened around me. I wasn't planning on going anywhere. We slept deeply, wrapped in each other, and when morning came, I reluctantly turned my phone back on. The barrage was immediate: texts, voicemails, emails, all demanding my attention, my money, my compliance. But one message stood out from the rest. A text from a cousin who was part of Jordan's bridal party. OMG, what happened? Blake's mom is telling everyone Jordan lied about who is paying for the wedding. His grandmother is furious. I showed it to Nate, who read it over my shoulder as he handed me coffee. "The plot thickens," he said with a low whistle. "Blake's family is old money, right? They probably don't take kindly to being misrepresented." "Definitely not." I couldn't help the small smile that formed. The truth is finally coming out. How does that feel? I considered the question, searching my feelings. Vindicating. And a little sad. I never wanted to destroy her wedding. I just wanted to stop being used. Those two things became the same thing because of her choices, not yours, Nate pointed out gently. Don't take responsibility for her consequences. I leaned against him, drawing comfort from his solid presence. When did you get so wise? I read a lot of self-help books after my ex emptied my bank account and moved to Bali with her yoga instructor. His tone was light, but I sensed the real pain beneath. Is that really what happened? He nodded, his expression rueful. Classic tale. I was working 80-hour weeks in finance while she found herself on my dime. Came home one day to an empty apartment and a note. "I'm sorry," I said, meaning it. "Don't be." Best thing that ever happened to me in retrospect. Forced me to reevaluate everything. He kissed the top of my head. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best changes. Like getting slapped in a bridal salon? Exactly like that. We spent the day together, a lazy Sunday of takeout and talking and making love in the afternoon sunlight. It should have felt too fast, too intense, but instead it felt like finding a piece of myself I hadn't known was missing. When my phone rang again with another unknown number, I almost didn't answer. But something told me this call was important. "Hello, Avery? This is Elizabeth Harrington, Blake's mother." My stomach dropped. Blake's mother, the matriarch of one of the city's oldest families, a woman whose charity galas were legendary and whose disapproval could sink social aspirations permanently. "Mrs. Harrington," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "What can I do for you?" "I'd like to understand exactly what's been happening with my son's wedding finances." Her tone was perfectly controlled, aristocratic. Nate's eyes widened. He mouthed Blake's mom, and I nodded, putting the call on speaker. "It's complicated," I began. "I have time," she replied crisply. "And I prefer clarity to complication." So I told her everything. The months of payments, the empty promises, the public slap that had finally pushed me to stop. She listened without interrupting. "I see," she said when I finished. "Thank you for your candor. The Harringtons value honesty above all else. It seems my future daughter-in-law does not share that value." "I never meant to cause problems for Blake," I said, feeling a strange need to defend him. He seemed genuinely unaware of the financial arrangements. "Oh, I'm quite certain he was," Mrs. Harrington said dryly. "My son has many qualities, but financial acumen isn't among them. However, dishonesty is something our family cannot abide." After we hung up, Nate let out a low whistle. That was intense. "What do you think happens now?" "I have no idea," I admitted. "But I have a feeling Jordan's perfect wedding just got a lot more complicated." "Good," Nate said firmly. "Some lessons need to be expensive to stick." He pulled me close, his warmth anchoring me. "Now, about that fellowship application." I looked up surprised. "What about it?" "I think Avery the Bold should apply. In fact, I think she should start working on her portfolio tonight." Tonight? But no buts, he interrupted gently. You've spent too long putting your dreams last. It's time to put them first. Looking into his eyes, I felt something unfamiliar take root in my chest. Hope, yes, but also determination. For so long, I defined myself by what I gave to others. Maybe it was time to discover who I could be when I invested in myself. Okay, I said, feeling the rightness of the decision settle into my bones. Let's do it. Monday morning arrived with a clarity I hadn't felt in months. Nate had left for his early shift at the coffee shop with a lingering kiss and a promise to check in later. I'd taken the day off work, my first personal day in over a year, to deal with the fallout and to start researching the fellowship application. The calm was shattered at 10:30 a.m. when my phone rang. Blake's name appeared on the screen. Hello. I answered cautiously. Avery. His voice sounded hollow, drained. We need to talk. I'm listening. He took a deep breath. The wedding's off. My parents spoke with Jordan this morning. He paused, searching for words. They said they couldn't welcome someone into the family who would build our marriage on a foundation of lies. I said nothing. There was nothing to say. Was she always like this? He asked finally. Did I miss something I should have seen? She's always been the family princess, I answered. And someone has always paid the price for her crown. The silence stretched between us, heavy with realization. We're officially broken up, Blake added after a moment. I returned her ring yesterday. Whatever bonus I was expecting at work came through last week, but it was nowhere near enough to cover all these expenses. I had no idea what she'd committed us to. I'm sorry, Blake. And I was sorry he'd been caught in Jordan's web of deceit. Sorry the relationship he thought he had was built on lies. My mother showed me the venue contract, he continued. Your signature was on all the paperwork as the financially responsible party. Did you know that? My stomach dropped. No. I knew I was making the payments, but Jordan said it was temporary until your bonus came through. I never signed anything giving her permission to use my name. That's what I thought. His sigh was heavy with resignation. Look, I want you to know I had no part in this. I would never have agreed to put you in that position. I believe you. And strangely, I did. Blake had always seemed genuinely nice, if somewhat oblivious. What happens now? Now, he gave a humorless laugh. Now I try to explain to my family why I was engaged to someone who would do this. And you. He paused. You should probably brace yourself. Jordan isn't taking this well. After we hung up, I sat in stunned silence. It was over. The wedding that had drained my savings and dominated my life for months was canceled. The relief I felt should have been pure, but it was tinged with a strange sadness, not for Jordan, but for the family relationship that would likely never recover from this. My phone pinged with a text from Nate. How are you holding up? I typed back, wedding's officially off. Blake just called. His response was immediate, coming over after my shift. Need anything? Ice cream? Wine? Ceremonial burning of bridesmaid dresses? Despite everything, I smiled. Just you. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then reappeared. You've got me. Always. It was too soon for such promises, too intense for a relationship just days old. Yet it didn't feel wrong or rushed. It felt like finding shelter in an unexpected place. The doorbell rang at noon, jolting me from my thoughts. I hadn't buzzed anyone up, which meant it was either maintenance or... Through the peephole, I saw my mother. I considered not answering, pretending I wasn't home. But this confrontation was inevitable, and perhaps it was better to have it on my territory, where I could ask her to leave if necessary. When I opened the door, she brushed past me without waiting for an invitation, her expensive perfume leaving a cloud in her wake. She looked impeccable as always, hair perfectly styled, makeup flawless, designer outfit freshly pressed. But her eyes were red-rimmed, and her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her handbag. How could you? She demanded without preamble. Do you have any idea what you've done? I closed the door calmly. Hello to you too, Mom. Don't you dare be flip with me, young lady. Your sister is absolutely devastated. The Harringtons have broken the engagement. Her entire future is ruined. I moved to the kitchen, putting the counter between us. Would you like some coffee, Mom? This might be a long conversation. I don't want coffee. She dropped her bag on the counter with a thud. I want an explanation for why you would sabotage your own sister's happiness out of, what? Jealousy? Spite? The accusation stung, but I kept my voice level. I didn't sabotage anything. I simply stopped paying for it. After you committed to helping. You gave your word, Avery. I agreed to a small loan for the engagement party. Not $25,000 for the entire wedding. She waved a dismissive hand. It's just money. Your sister's happiness. It's my money, I interrupted, heat finally entering my voice. Money I worked for. Money I saved. Money for MY future, which I put on hold to fund her fantasy. That's what family does, Avery. We support each other. Support goes both ways, Mom. When has Jordan ever supported me? When have any of you? Her face registered genuine confusion. What are you talking about? We've always supported you. Really? Did you come to my master's graduation? Have you ever helped me financially, the way you've bailed Jordan out repeatedly? Did you even ask if I was okay after she slapped me hard enough to draw blood? My mother's expression shifted, discomfort replacing indignation. That was unfortunate. Jordan was under a lot of stress. Unfortunate, I repeated flatly. My sister physically assaulted me in public, and the best you can say is it was unfortunate? You're exaggerating. It was just a slap. I walked to my bathroom, retrieved my phone, and pulled up the photo I'd taken Saturday evening, my cheek with the small cut from Jordan's ring, already bruising around the edges. I showed it to her silently. She glanced at it, then away quickly. Well, I'm sure she didn't mean to hurt you. She meant exactly that, Mom. And you stood there and did nothing. A heavy silence fell between us, decades of unspoken resentment and hurt filling the space. What do you want me to say? She finally asked, deflating slightly. That Jordan has always been difficult? That we've spent years managing her moods and expectations? We did what we had to do for family harmony. At my expense. She sighed, suddenly looking older than her years. What's done is done, Avery. The question is, what are you going to do now? The Harringtons are furious. Blake has returned the ring. Jordan is inconsolable. You have to fix this. I stared at her, incredulous. Fix this? How exactly am I supposed to fix a relationship built on lies? You could talk to Blake, explain it was all a misunderstanding. It wasn't a misunderstanding. Jordan lied to everyone, to me, to Blake, to his family, to you and Dad. She committed fraud by signing my name to financial documents. Those are crimes, Mom, not misunderstandings. My mother's face paled. Surely you wouldn't press charges against your own sister. No, I conceded. But I'm not going to rescue her either. Not this time. She picked up her bag, clutching it like a shield. Your father and I are very disappointed in you, Avery. Family should come first. I agree, I said quietly. But for the first time in my life, I'm realizing that I'm part of this family too. And it's time someone considered my needs for a change. She left without another word, the door closing behind her with a soft click that somehow sounded more final than a slam. I sank onto my couch, emotionally drained. Part of me had hoped, foolishly perhaps, that she would finally see things from my perspective. That she would acknowledge the years of inequity, the constant expectation that I would sacrifice while Jordan took. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. I opened it to find a photo of Jordan, face swollen from crying, curled in her childhood bed. Underneath, my mother had written, "This is what you've done to your sister." I deleted the message without responding, then blocked the new number. When Nate arrived an hour later, he found me surrounded by fellowship application materials, determinately working on my portfolio concept. Productive day? He asked, setting down a bag of takeout. Very. I gestured to my mother's unfinished coffee on the counter. Had a visit from Mom. Apparently, I'm a terrible person who needs to fix what I've broken. Nate's expression darkened. And what did you say to that guilt trip? That I'm done fixing Jordan's messes. I stood, stretching my cramped muscles. It didn't go over well. He pulled me into a hug, his solid warmth exactly what I needed. "I'm proud of you," he murmured into my hair. "Standing your ground isn't easy, especially with family." I leaned into him, drawing strength from his steadiness. "It's strange. I feel awful and liberated at the same time. That's how it is when you stop carrying someone else's burdens," he said. "The guilt is real, but so is the freedom." Later that evening, as we lay tangled together in my bed, his fingers tracing idle patterns on my bare shoulder, Nate asked the question I'd been avoiding. "What happens now? With your family, I mean." I sighed, nestling closer to his warmth. "Honestly, I don't know. Mom expects me to cave eventually. I always have before." "And will you?" "Cave?" I considered the question seriously. "No," I said finally. "I can't go back to being their ATM. But I don't want to lose them completely either." "Then don't," he said simply. "Set boundaries, not walls. Be clear about what you will and won't accept going forward." "When did you get so wise?" I teased, pressing a kiss to his chest. "Around the same time I lost everything and had to rebuild," he replied, his tone light but honest. "Hard lessons tend to stick." In the darkness of my bedroom, wrapped in the arms of this man who had appeared in my life at exactly the right moment, I felt something unfamiliar take root: hope. Not just for us, but for me, for a future where I valued myself as much as others, where my dreams mattered, where I wasn't defined by what I could give, but by who I chose to be. "I think I might be falling in love with you," I whispered, the words slipping out before I could reconsider. His arms tightened around me. "I think I might have fallen the moment you told me you'd canceled your sister's wedding with 3 taps." I laughed softly. "That's a strange thing to fall in love with." "Not really," he countered, his voice warm in the darkness. "I fell in love with your courage. With the woman who finally decided she mattered too." And in that moment, I believed him. The next 2 weeks unfolded in a strange new reality, one where I was both villain and hero in my own story, depending on who was telling it. Blake's mother called again, this time to inform me that they'd spoken with their family attorney about the fraudulent signatures on the venue contracts. "We're not pursuing legal action," she assured me. "But you should know that the venue has agreed to refund half of the deposit given the circumstances." "That's unexpected," I said, genuinely surprised. "The Harrington name carries some weight in the city," she replied simply. "And fraud is fraud, regardless of whether it's family." The refunded deposit, $12,000, appeared in my account 3 days later, a financial lifeline I hadn't expected. I immediately transferred it to my savings, the first step in rebuilding what Jordan had drained. My father called next, his approach different from my mother's emotional bombardment. "Your sister made mistakes," he acknowledged gruffly. "But family forgives, Avery." "I do forgive her," I replied truthfully. "But forgiveness doesn't mean funding her lifestyle or tolerating abuse." "Abuse is a strong word," he protested. "Is it?" "She left me bleeding, Dad. In public. After using my credit for months under false pretenses." "What would you call it?" His silence spoke volumes. "I'm not cutting you all off," I continued, softer now. "But things have to change. I won't be Jordan's backup plan or emergency fund anymore. And if we need help, your mother and I aren't getting any younger. Real help for real needs? Of course I'll be there. But I'm done enabling Jordan's schemes." After we hung up, I felt a strange lightness. The conversation hadn't solved everything, but it was a start, my first attempt at setting boundaries without burning bridges. Nate and I fell into an easy rhythm together, spending most nights at my place, which was larger and quieter than his apartment above the coffee shop. He brought over his drawing supplies, setting up a small workspace in the corner of my living room. I cleared a drawer for his clothes, then another. Small steps toward something that felt increasingly permanent. "Move in with me," I said one evening, the words surprising us both. He looked up from his sketchbook, eyebrows raised. "Are you sure?" "It's only been 3 weeks." "I'm sure," I said, surprising myself with how true it felt. "I know it's fast, but nothing about us has been conventional from the start." His slow smile lit up his whole face. Avery, the bold strikes again. Is that a yes? He set aside his drawing and pulled me onto his lap. It's an absolutely yes. But let's do it right, find a new place together. Somewhere that's ours from the beginning. The apartment hunt became our weekend project, a welcome distraction from the ongoing family drama. We found a perfect loft in an old converted warehouse, exposed brick walls, massive windows, room for both my architectural drafting table and his art studio. The rent was slightly more than I'd been paying, but with Nate's income combined with mine, it was comfortably affordable. 1-year lease, the agent said, sliding the paperwork across the table. You can move in next month. I signed my name first, then handed the pen to Nate. Watching him add his signature beside mine felt momentous, a tangible symbol of this new life we were building together. Official, he said, grinning as he capped the pen. Terrifyingly so, I agreed, but I was smiling too. As we left the leasing office, my phone buzzed with a notification from my bank app. A deposit of $2,000 had been made to my account from J. Reynolds. Jordan, Nate asked, peering over my shoulder. I nodded, surprised. First installment, I guess. Over the next week, similar deposits appeared every few days, $1, $500, $3,000, $2,500, always from the same source, always without accompanying message or explanation. I broke my silence and texted her, "Thank you for the payments." Her response came hours later, "Whatever. Mom and Dad made me." I didn't reply. Some relationships couldn't be fixed with money, and some apologies never came. I was learning to be okay with that. The day that should have been Jordan's wedding dawned bright and clear. Instead of a ceremony, the Harrington family announced a substantial donation to a local education charity in what society columns delicately called a change of plans for the previously announced union. Jordan had moved back to our parents' house, refusing to leave her room according to family friends who still kept in touch with me. My mother's texts, now coming from new numbers I hadn't blocked, oscillated between rage and desperate pleas. She's devastated. Her life is ruined. How could you do this to your own sister? Then hours later, "Please, Avery, we need your help. Your father's retirement isn't enough. We can't support her alone." I didn't respond to either. There was nothing to say that hadn't already been said. 6 weeks after what Nate and I now called the salon incident, we signed the final paperwork for our new apartment, the one I delayed for Jordan's wedding. As we unpacked boxes in a space that was finally ours, my phone buzzed with a text from an unsaved number. "It's Blake. I wanted to thank you, not for what happened with Jordan, that's still complicated, but for showing me the truth before I made a permanent mistake. I hope you're doing well." I showed the message to Nate, who nodded thoughtfully. Bullet dodged for that guy. For both of us, I corrected. Me financially, him matrimonially. Speaking of financial recovery, Nate nodded toward the coffee table, where a thick envelope lay among the moving chaos. The Westark Fellowship application, complete with my portfolio, ready to be mailed. I'd worked on it every evening for weeks, pouring my architectural vision and passion into the designs. Whether I won or not, completing the application felt like a victory, a declaration that my dreams mattered too. "Want to do the honors?" Nate asked, holding out the envelope. I sealed it with deliberate care, smoothing down the flap. It feels weird to be excited about something for myself. "Get used to it," he said, pulling me into a hug. "I have a feeling there's a lot more excitement coming your way." As we stood in our half-unpacked apartment, surrounded by boxes and potential and new beginnings, I realized he was right. The path forward wasn't clear or certain, but for the first time, it was truly mine. That evening, Nate and I stood on our small balcony overlooking the city park, watching families stroll below. The setting sun cast everything in a golden glow, turning ordinary scenes into moments of unexpected beauty. My sister had lost a fiancé, a wedding, and her carefully cultivated image. My parents had lost their favorite daughter's fairy tale ending. Jordan was left responsible for the remaining vendor balances she'd accrued, though I suspected our parents would eventually bail her out as they always had. And me? I'd gained something I hadn't fully realized was missing, my own life, reclaimed one canceled credit card at a time. And something unexpected, a partner who saw me clearly and loved what he saw. Nate's arms encircled me from behind, his lips finding the sensitive spot below my ear. "Penny for your thoughts?" I turned in his embrace, meeting his gaze. I was just thinking that sometimes standing up for yourself doesn't require grand gestures or elaborate schemes. Sometimes it's as simple as stopping the payments, stopping the sacrifice, stopping the pattern that keeps you small while making others feel big. And the consequences? His question was gentle, knowing. Those belong to them. I reached up to touch his face, marveling at how right this felt. But the rewards, those belong to us. His kiss was a promise, one I finally believed I deserved. 2 months after moving in together, I received a thick envelope from the Westark Fellowship. My hands trembled as I opened it, Nate hovering anxiously nearby. "Dear Ms. Reynolds," I read aloud, my voice shaking slightly. "We are pleased to inform you that you have been selected as a finalist for this year's Westark International Architectural Fellowship." Nate hooped, lifting me off my feet in a spinning hug. "I knew it. I told you they'd recognize your talent." Being a finalist didn't guarantee the fellowship, but it meant interviews, further portfolio reviews, and a real chance at the opportunity I dreamed of but never pursued. Whether I ultimately won or not, the recognition validated something essential. My vision mattered. My relationship with my family remained complicated. Small steps toward reconciliation happened gradually, a birthday card from my father, an awkward coffee with my mother where neither of us mentioned Jordan, a Christmas dinner where the tension was palpable but not unbearable. Jordan herself remained distant, the wound between us too raw for easy healing. But time has a way of shifting perspectives, and 6 months after the salon incident, she texted me out of the blue. "Got a real job. Assistant manager at Nordstrom. Not as glamorous as luxury real estate, but the paycheck is steady." I responded simply, "Proud of you." It wasn't forgiveness exactly, but it was acknowledgement of her effort, of the possibility of change. Baby steps toward whatever our relationship might become in this new reality where I was no longer her safety net. The final payment from Jordan arrived exactly 1 year after the canceled wedding, bringing her total repayment to just over $21,000, not the full amount, but close enough that I considered the debt cleared. The check came with a note in her handwriting, "I'm sorry." Not just for the money. I didn't respond immediately. Some apologies need to be felt rather than instantly absolved. But I tucked the note into my journal, a reminder that even the deepest patterns can change if we're brave enough to break them. In March, the full fellowship results arrived. I hadn't won the top prize, but I'd placed high enough to receive a 3-month study opportunity in Prague, a modified version of my dream, but a dream nonetheless. "You have to go," Nate insisted when I hesitated about leaving him for 3 months. "But we just got settled," I protested. "And what about your graphic novel deadline?" "I can draw anywhere," he pointed out. "My publisher won't care if I'm working from Prague instead of here." His eyes lit up with sudden inspiration. "Come to think of it, a European Gothic city would be the perfect setting research for my next project. Are you inviting yourself along on my fellowship?" I asked, pretending to be scandalized. "Absolutely." He pulled me close. "Unless you'd rather have your European adventure solo." "Never," I said, meaning it completely. Some adventures are better shared. As we made plans, researched apartments in Prague, and dreamed of European streets and ancient architecture, I marveled at how thoroughly my life had transformed in a single year. From funding someone else's dream to pursuing my own. From being taken for granted to being truly seen. From settling for less to demanding more. All because I'd finally understood a simple truth. Standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Boundaries aren't walls meant to keep others out. They're definitions of where you end and others begin. And sometimes, the most loving thing you can do for yourself and for those who take advantage of you is simply to stop enabling. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother, "Your father, and I would like to take you and Nate to dinner before you leave for Prague. If you're available." Progress, small but significant. I typed back, "We'd like that." Looking up, I caught Nate watching me with a soft expression. "What?" I asked, self-conscious suddenly. "Just admiring Avery the Bold," he said, his smile warming me from the inside out. The woman who canceled a wedding and found herself in the process. I laughed, the sound free and genuine. That should be the title of my memoir. I'd read it, he said, pulling me into his arms. In fact, I'd illustrate it. As the afternoon sun streamed through our loft windows, highlighting the architectural drawings spread across my desk and the comic panels on his, I felt a profound sense of peace settle over me. Not because everything was perfect, it wasn't. Not because all wounds were healed, some never would be completely. But because for the first time in my adult life, I was living authentically, loving openly, and standing firmly in my own worth. Sometimes the most romantic story isn't about finding someone to complete you, but finding the courage to complete yourself and then finding someone who loves the whole of who you are. And sometimes the most powerful act isn't a grand gesture of defiance, but the quiet dignity of saying, no more. 3 taps on a phone, a canceled credit card, a moment of standing in your truth, even when your cheek is stinging and everyone is watching. Small actions that change everything. If you're watching this and something in my story resonates, if you've ever given too much, sacrificed your dreams for someone who wouldn't do the same for you, or struggled to set boundaries with family, I want you to know something important. You matter. Your dreams matter. Your financial security matters. And it's never too late to reclaim your power. Like this video if it spoke to you. Subscribe for more stories of courage and transformation. And leave a comment sharing one boundary you're going to set this week. Remember, standing up for yourself isn't selfish, it's essential. Until next time, this is Pure Revenge Stories, reminding you that sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply living well.